knees. You understand? Okay. So, besides the personal end, there's something Ram has asked me to teach on this afternoon, which I told him I didn't know if I'd do it unless I felt spiritually driven and inclined. And I do feel spiritually driven and inclined to share this with you. So make sure you have your notepads out. Okay? I want to tell you, your books, first of all, are reflective of your deepest self. They're reflective of your deepest self. We spent a lot of time helping you prepare to go to that deeper self. You showed great bravery and courage in going there with us this weekend. And anytime you got swallowed up by the past, you did a great job in showing us, asking for our help and for our assistance to take you back to the divine path. Okay? Your books are a mirror of you, a deeper side of you that your intellect doesn't fully and completely understand. So if we can see a visual impression of our books outside the words, we can see a lot of things about ourselves, and then a true dialogue starts back and forth between the book and the author about what the book is going to become, and how it's going to get there, and what the author is going to become. Does that make sense? Okay. So there is a way to see your books just in a similar manner to what a musician will see on sheet music. So what I would suggest to all of you is go out and buy four stacks of four different colored highlighters. Stacks of Post-it notes, excuse me. Highlighters, Post-it notes. Post-it notes. Thank you. Thank you for the correction. Now I know you're listening. Four different stacks, a stack each for four different colors of Post-it notes. You want to make sure you get at least 200 Post-it notes each. We want those colors to be red, orange, yellow, and blue. This little exercise I'm going to talk about will help you better understand your writing, your book, and yourself more than anything else, because there's a gift in each book, a huge gift for each one of you. To make this real simple, the red Post-it notes are going to symbolize hot scenes. I don't mean like in the steamy romance, even though I realize most of you would prefer to write that. A hot scene means a very pertinent, poignant point being made. A climax. There goes that sexual overtone again. A climax. Red. Orange means near climax. Yellow means leading away from cold, moving toward climax. Blue is a cold scene. Now you may say, well, I don't want any cold scenes. You have to have cold scenes. If you don't have a day off every once in a while, the days that you have that are exciting aren't that exciting. Do you know of anyone that speaks so quickly and so enthusiastically that they're boring?
Yeah.
They're like, man, you're like wearing me out, dude. You got to give me some downtime to absorb some of this stuff. 'Cause you're way ahead of me, and this is getting monotonous. As exciting as you are, you're monotonous. So what you want to do is you want to take these Post-it notes, okay? And for each scene or major topic in your book, write down a summarizing statement on each one, just enough of a statement that you can remember, you can recall what's in that scene. And then you'll take those Post-it notes and get a big pad of paper like this or a big whiteboard and lay them out. Lay out the book chronologically. And you'll see exactly how you speak, how you communicate, where you're effective and where you're not. Now let me tell you this. The first scene or topic of your book, the first scene and or topic of your book has to be a red. Has to be a red. You got it? Now, listen to this. You cannot, in the beginning, you cannot go more than 2 red scenes in a row. So the beginning cannot be more than 2 red scenes, because if you're going to wear your reader out if you go 3. Following every red scene should be a blue. Blue, rest, research, exposition, understanding, explanation. So you got a red, and you hit a blue. A blue always has to follow a sequence of red. The end of the book should be a culmination of 3 to 4 red scenes. That's the only place you can go beyond a few red scenes. The culmination, the end of the book, should be 3 or 4 red scenes. If it's not, you failed. We've all had books, haven't we? We've all read books that we were really into, got to the end and it sucked. It is so depressing, isn't it? I just devoted 8 hours to reading this friggin' book, waiting for the climax, and there was no climax.
Oh,
Okay?
yeah,
There's no. I'm talking about
not going
books.
there, not going there.
Okay, so it should be approximately 3 red scenes at the end. It should never be 1 red scene. If it's 1 red scene, it's a problem. It's too quick, too fast. You leave them too fast. It should be at least 3 red scenes. With the exception of the beginning where you start out in a red scene and drop to a blue. Every red needs to be worked up to. Blue, yellow, orange, red. Blue, yellow, orange, red. Blue, yellow, orange, red.
At what part of the revision does this whole process come in?
I'll get into that. Okay. Okay, so we've got the beginning and the end covered, right? Got that? Now there should be a midpoint in every book. A midpoint. Should be a culmination of 2 to 3 red scenes in a row. A midpoint. I mean literally and figuratively halfway through the book.
And when you're saying like at the midpoint at the end, 2 to 3 red scenes in the row, there is no blue?
There's no blue.
Okay.
No. In the beginning, you're going to start out with 1 to 2 red scenes. Usually 2 is best, and then goes immediately to blue. At the end, 3 red scenes, no blue. You leave them on high at all times. Midpoint, 2 to 3 red scenes.
In a row.
In a row. Remember, after that second or third red scene, we go to blue. See, blue is when you're giving the reader a rest. And that's when you can give them all the background information, you can give them all the research, all the substantiation. That's when you give them that. Now, in between the beginning and the midpoint, the halfway point is a midpoint. Beginning and halfway point is a midpoint. That midpoint should be 2 red scenes. In between halfway and the end should be another midpoint of 2 red scenes.
So there's a midpoint in the middle and another.
So we have beginning, midpoint, middle, midpoint, end. Does anyone recognize this sequence?
Yes.
From what? No, not music.
An orgasm.
Screenwriting.
An orgasm. I don't know.
Ready?
I've never. I don't know there's a midpoint. Familiar with the end point. No, it's screenplays.
Accident.
30 years ago, we had books, we had screenplays. 15 years ago, we had the merging of books and screenplays. Now, they're the same art form, they're the same style. Do you remember when Pat Conroy, am I dating myself with Pat Conroy? Remember Pat Conroy ever read Prince of Tides? Remember Prince of Tides? The Barbara Streisand, Nick Nolte movie, was it?
Yeah.
So you read one of Pat Conroy's books, you dig into those 956-page small print, paperback books, and he takes you through an amazing journey. But you go to see Prince of Tides on the big screen, it's totally different, right? So he was a novelist, and that novelist's job was to convert that novel into a screenplay. There's no way you can cover 956 pages on the screen unless you're going to sit there for a 10.5-hour movie. Well, because of the popularization of the cinema, at-home movies especially, and now computer-based movies, we as a culture have moved to a movie structure. Okay, so everything is structured along the lines of a movie because that's the most effective art form in our culture. And books are expected to be that way too. Now, Pat Conroy can still write a 1,000-word novel and it's going to be a bestseller because he's Pat Conroy. But today's authors, with your first books, I don't care if they're fiction or nonfiction, you're expected to follow the same format. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Now, some questions you should be asking. How many blue scenes can we have in a row?
None in a row, one.
No, you can have them in a row. You can have them in a row. After the beginning of a book, you can get away with 3 blue scenes. After the midpoint of a book, you can get away with 2 blue scenes.
I'm sorry, can you, the 3 blue scenes is, you said in
After the beginning of the book,
Uh-huh.
you can get away with 3 blue scenes right away. Because you got the reader so fired up they'll put up with that crap. Okay? After the midpoint, you can have 2 blue scenes in a row. Halfway point, 3 blue scenes in a row. Second midpoint, 2 blue scenes in a row.
Can you say that again?
After the midpoint.
Just put all this
After,
in.
okay, let's go through it. I'll go through it real slowly.
Put it all in our little-
After the beginning, how many blue scenes can you get away with?
3.
3. Okay. After the first midpoint, 2. After the halfway point,
3.
3.
after the second midpoint,
2.
2. How many after the ending?
None.
It's all blue.
Okay, got it? Okay, now,
How many
where you really have to watch yourself, where you really have to watch yourself is the yellow and orange scenes. You can't labor with those too long. Those are transitionary scenes. So we don't really want to go to multiple yellow or orange scenes because you'll lose your reader with those.
Boring.
It is. You've always got to be progressing forward or else you're falling backwards. So the yellow and orange, you should only have one of those at a time. And they're always, 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 always leading to a red scene. Make sense? So what does this all mean for you? Well, what I recommend is, again, you take your book, take your manuscripts. You're going to need to take a few days to do this, and this will be very pleasurable for you. And this exercise will show you more about your book, more about your style, more about yourself than you ever thought possible, but it'll also show you what you need to do to adjust your style to make it more effective. Okay? So what I would suggest is take one morning and get in the right brain state by doing some writing, and then take those post-it notes and lay out your book in chronological sequence and color coding each scene. You'll be able to look at what your book says and how it says it, then you can back off and say, oh my God, I've got too many reds, too many blues, I've got way too many yellows, too many oranges, whatever. And then you can make the adjustments on the with the post-it notes on the boards to how you want to rearrange the scenes. So the question was, when do we use this? What I would recommend is using this after the 5th sweep through on your revision. This should be the last thing you do. But this will enable you to fine-tune the rhythm to your book so your book communicates as effectively as possible. Does that make sense? Yes.
Could you speak to how you could apply this to essays in a book of essays?
It works toward the same thing.
But each essay would have the structure and the book?
Exactly.
Okay.
The question was, how do you apply this to a book of essays? Well, first of all, the book of essays is a book.
Mhm.
So you want it structured the same way.
Okay.
But within each one of those essays, you'd structure it the same way. Red, blue, yellow, orange, red. Done.
Okay.
Okay? This is the sequence of life. This is the sequence of the universe. This is the sequence of communicators. If you went back and took apart Martin Luther King's speeches, some of the ones he did, or John Kennedy, they all do the same thing. They all do the same thing. This is a universal language of entertainment and communication. We are not just communicators, we are entertainers within the communication field. And so our job is to entertain and keep our audience feeling good, feeling excited, feeling scared, feeling angry, but making them feel in such a way that they feel at the right time, at the right sequence in our writing. If we don't do that, you're going to learn, you can be on a 25-hour learning process or 25-year learning process. Trial and tribulation will teach you everything I'm telling you, or you can just take what I'm suggesting and learn how to do this in 25 minutes or 25 hours. It's pretty simple. Yes?
Should you do it for each chapter as well?
Yes. Yes.
In the chapters and then the chapter as a whole?
Exactly. Just like Mira was saying, if your book, she was talking about a collection of essays, which is really a book that's built on chapters. Your chapters are just essays. Would all be the same structure. You gotta grab them, you gotta leave them high, you can drop them off after that. You don't ever, ever, ever want to start a chapter off with a blue. Okay? You can have some blue in it, a lot of blue in it. Don't ever want to start a chapter off with a blue, nor leave it with a blue, because that's when you lose it. Karen?
This hasn't quite sunk in. What I've written down is there's the beginning, and then there's the first midpoint, and then there's the halfway point, and then there's the second midpoint.
Correct.
But I don't understand, what's the midpoint, mid between what? Is it
The
between
midpoint
middle
is
and the
between the beginning, and the halfway point is a midpoint.
Okay,
Between the halfway point and the end is a midpoint.
okay.
And literally, it's literally going to be based, if your book is, let's say the first half of it's 50 pages, okay? Your beginning's page 1, all right? The first half. Your midpoint would be page what?
25.
Your
No.
halfway point would be page 50, okay?
You said it's a
What?
50-page book.
50, if it was, the first half of your book was that
Oh,
much.
the first half, okay.
Okay, so page 1 would be beginning, midpoint would be page, the halfway point would be page, okay. So literally, you want to build your scenes in such a way that your midpoints are hit with those reds at page, at least on page 1, 25, 50, if not in between.
2 to 3 reds for.
Yes, 2 to 3.
At each of those.
Yes.
And 3 at the end.
Yes.
But what actually like determines the scene? You know, like,
You do.
oh, okay, so it's just my sense about something that, okay, at the
Yes,
beginning.
no, you know, we came into this retreat ostracizing your left brain, didn't we? I mean, we put it to sleep, right? Okay, now, did you notice though, once you got your book done, we started a different educational procedure. What do we start bringing back into the process? Your left brain, you understand? The reason we had to ostracize it is because it's so strong and we had to get the book out. But now that once you have actually written a book, your left brain actually believes you're an author. It still may doubt that you'll be a success, but it still believes you're an author, okay? So, but we've also, during that day and a half of writing when we wrote the book, we strengthened the heck out of that muscle, didn't we? So that right brain doesn't have to back down to that left brain anymore. Ultimately, what we want to do is we want to create a dual brain writing system where the writing is governed by the right brain, but it uses the components of the left brain to benefit its eventual outcome. Right now, when you came into this, you were left-brained. I know that's an insult to some of you, but you were left-brained. You're governed by the left brain. I've been governed by the left brain too. So ultimately, what we want to do is find a place for the left brain, because the left brain brings a lot to the table. It's just not a leader. It should be a follower. So when we start doing these symbols with the different post-it notes, we're actually, the first time through, we're training the left brain what we want. So when we start going through our books stylistically like this, we give the left brain the ability to use its abilities to help us restructure the book. Does that make sense? We couldn't do that initially. Well, I couldn't have taught you about this before you wrote your books. Your left brain wouldn't even listen to me because it didn't believe you could write one. Okay. First.
So let's say you map it out, like the patterns, and you realize you're missing a red scene, or you have 2 and you need 3 blues. Is that a point to go back and write another scene to fit in there?
Good question. What you can do is, if you already have the scenes, but they're inappropriately laid out, you can move scenes around.
So what happens if you don't have enough? Yeah.
Or if you look and say, man, I need another blue scene, that's when you create it. This is finishing work.
Yeah.
This is
And you
finishing
said
work.
after the end of the 5-step.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you something. I'm looking for a certain answer. I'm not sure you can give it to me, but I'm going to ask you this question to lead you toward it. Curtis, you got here by doing what with the book? Besides writing it. What did you have to do to write it?
Here?
Yes.
I mean, actually in the retreat,
Yes.
I had to just let it out.
You had to listen to it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you achieved your success, all of you, have achieved your success by listening to the book. So that's become somewhat second nature to you, hasn't it? Okay. When you lay that book out with those different colored post-it notes, what are you doing again? Listening to the book. You will literally have that big whiteboard staring back at you, and you're going to feel stuff just like you felt when you were writing it. And so the book is, because the book is seeing itself through your eyes. Does that make sense? It's seeing a mirror image of itself through your eyes. It's like, oh no, Kirsten, oh my God, way too much blue, buddy, wait, oh, I didn't realize, Kirsten, we gotta move this around. So you'll actually feel the book talking to you again. And that's when you respond by making the changes to the board, just like we look at our hair in the mirror and decide, oh, I don't like it this way, I need to go this way. It's the same thing with the boards and the post-it notes. So you will literally go back and forth with that board for a few days. You can only look at it a little bit at a time. You're not going to be able to get this done in one day.
Do a chapter at a time, or?
No, you want to lay out the whole book at
The
once.
whole book at once.
So you're going to be able to have an exposure to this board with these post-it notes maybe once or twice a day for 15 or 20 minutes at a time, because it gets really intense. So you make the changes, walk away, come back, look at it again, make the changes, walk away. Usually, I would say on an average basis, it takes between 6 and 9 viewpoints of a book before you look at it and all you feel is good. That's when the book says, yeah, I like the color, I like the style, I like the length, you look good. Okay? So again, you're giving the book the opportunity to see itself through you, to make it itself into what it was meant to be. Okay?
When you type it up, because I'm writing in hand, by hand, do you type it up, print it out, and then put the Post-its on it? That's when you want to.
Well, remember the post-it notes are separate from the book. They are the book, but you don't even have to type it up.
Writing on the Post-its.
Write them on the
Not
post-its.
writing
Like, you just have to have enough of a scene description that you recall what's in the scene. Bob meets Sally. Car runs into truck.
on- I
You know,
see.
and that's all you do.
Oh,
And now please understand, I'm not saying chapters. I'm saying scenes. There's a difference. Because oftentimes within your books, even your nonfiction books, you have many different sections within a chapter. So I'm talking sections, not chapters. You understand the difference?
so if a section has 4 chapters in it,
Yes.
we're talking section.
If a chapter has four sections in it,
Oh,
that's
if
4
the
sections.
chapter has 4.
Now you may cover, if you want to be very specific about this, in a section, you may cover 2 or 3 different chapters, 2 or 3 different sections, topics. So in a section, you may cover a few different topics, and you may want to get finite enough that you can list a card, post a note for each one of those topics, which is what I do.
Imagine it was the scene in a movie, and the camera has to
Like a storyboard.
That's each scene.
Yes.
Story.
And there's also, at times, there's hidden understandings. So you make a point in a book in hopes that the reader is actually picking up something that you want them to pick up that you don't want to describe because it would become boring. So you have to ask yourself, am I describing this in this section well enough that we can move to the next scene or topic? You understand? I mean, I was very fortunate that when I broke into book publishing, that I had some great teachers, people that had run the industry for half a century. They were older, people didn't believe in them anymore, they equated old age with sometimes stupidity, I equated it with wisdom. And they were kind enough that when I asked questions, they would spend whatever time I needed, because they could tell I was a sponge of information. I wanted to get as much information as I could. I learned so much from these people, so my learning curve was extremely fast. Now, I didn't have me as a mentor. So my learning curve to where I really mastered stuff, I really mastered it, was about 3.5 years. And the things I'm telling you about, I was going on pure spirit integration. I was just feeling it and doing it. I'm like, wow, am I learning things? Wow, is this great? So I took time every day, still do take time every day, just to, in an unadulterated way, tune into spirit. I do it first thing in the morning, and that usually carries me throughout the day, or until when I have a beer. And, but it's just making time to listen. You got to realize that your books are gifts from spirit. and they're trying to talk to you, and they're trying to get a message out. But it's just like dressing in a closet where there's no lights on. You're not sure what you're going to look like when you come out. They're not sure either. You become that light for them to show them what they look like so they can perfect themselves before they go out in the world. Does that make sense? Okay. Do I think this is necessary to do this? Yeah, I do. For you guys, yeah. Because this is, and I don't know if I mean this as a compliment as much as a reality, you guys are the most driven group I've ever had. Driven. Really. You know, Friday was, man, we were kicking ass. The three of us were moving around and rotating because you guys were finishing books and interesting questions so fast and having breakthroughs and breakups and blow-ups. And it was great. It was like a dance. I mean, Rama and I, Gwen were just revolving and revolving and revolving. It was great. We've never had a bad retreat group. But I don't think we've ever had one as strong as you guys.
All right.
Strong, I mean real strength. And you really deserve to be applauded for that. Now, really do. You guys are strong. So, your top side is so high. One of the reasons I want to go over this today is because you're learning, I want to try to shrink your learning curve as quickly as I can because you guys are so aggressive personally, and I think that's beautiful. I don't mean aggressive in a negative or offensive sort. You're aggressive. You're going to want to grow fast. This is definitely a starting point for you, a good starting point. But you want to grow fast and hard, and you want to get out there as quick as you can. So, would I recommend this to everybody? No. Would I recommend it to you? Yes. Do I think it's mandatory? For you, yes, I do. I think it is. I do think because you're like me, man. When I started, I was a sponge, man. Just tell me more. Just tell me more. I want to learn it. I want to grow and I want to learn. I want to be a bestseller immediately. Tell me more. I know you got the answers, and I want to have them. Can you share them with me? That's the way you guys are. And I don't know if any of you heard this, but I categorize every group. Every group is different. And for me as an instructor, I need to categorize you. So I know, because each one of you come together into a whole here. And so I've had groups of neurotics, which I'm not saying you are. I'm not saying you're psychotic either. Neurotics are really the easiest ones to work with. Because you only have to tell them to do something once and they do it the entire weekend. The only thing you have to worry about with neurotics is when you're kidding, they take you very seriously. A lot. This group, you guys are overachievers. When you make a mistake, it will never be a mistake of complacency. Your mistake will be because you tried too friggin' hard. Because I said, we'll go 3 miles. You say 3 miles or 300? 3. Okay, I'll go 300. No, better is more is not necessarily better. Okay, because after 3 miles there's a cliff. You see. So, what I really feel is I tuned into my spirit to ask, well, what's really at the essence of this group? Because I've had 8 personalities, which are ego-based, but I've never had overachievers. And I really wanted to understand the concept of overachievers better. So I asked in my meditation, what is the result? We know what the result of an overachiever is, but how did they get that way? And what I really got in my response to my meditation was, they're overachievers because they had a premonition of what they should have done a long time ago. They got a premonition a long time ago, but what they don't realize was a premonition, not a reality. So you saw that you were supposed to be a best-selling author at 5, and now you're 45 and you think you're 40 years behind. No. You guys are so serious because you're so devoted. You had a premonition that you may have even forgotten about so long ago that you feel like you're behind. You're not behind. You're here at just the right time. Do you understand the difference? Yeah. So if you can get off your own ass and give yourself a little space, it'll help you a lot. John Wooden, the greatest basketball coach of all time, I spent a few hours with him one time. We talked at a very deep level. And I said, how do you discipline, Coach? He goes, well, there's only 2 types of people, Tom. There's people that need the pat in the back. There's people that need it a lot lower and a lot harder. You have to decide which one they are, and you give them what they need. You are pat on the back people. You are hard driving souls. You don't need to get on your butt about things, because you will get the job done. Come hell or high water, you will get the job done. You need appreciation. You do not need a kick in the ass. You understand?
Yeah.
A kick in the ass to you is too much. It's a straw that breaks the camel's back. Which brings me into a point I wanted to remind me to make to you, which you forgot, and I think I remember. I want you to listen to me very seriously, because this thing I'm going to talk about next is very simplistic, but it's going to be the key to your immediate success, and it's called reinforcement. Okay? Reinforcement. You're hard charging. I'm going to make this point again. You're hard charging. You crumble at a kick in the ass. Okay? You relish from a pat in the back because you give everything you've got all the time. Somebody pats you in the back, you're now 2 feet taller. Somebody kicks you in the ass, you crumble. Because you're giving everything you got nothing else to give. So, reinforcement becomes extremely important. One thing I did not make space for on the sheets that you filled out just before lunch, and I'm going to start making space for this because of you guys from this point forward, is how are you going to positively reinforce your efforts? How are you going to positively reinforce your efforts? And you know, I said, how are you going to? Who does your psyche and your heart want to hear from the most? Yourself, man. We live in a codependent society. You know, we are completely void in so many cases of self-love that we get into relationships, we put inhuman expectations on our partners, our friends, our family members, our animals, to make up for the love we don't feel for ourselves. And you know, they can give us all the love in the world, and you know, it's not going to make a difference. Because the person we want to be loved by is who? Right. So we expect to go home tonight, you wrote a book, your spouse is going to say, my God, this is a tremendous event, you're going to change the world. You say you wrote a book? Hey, you want to watch The Voice? It's on in a few minutes. They don't relate, man. You can't expect them to. It's unfair to. But the person you really want to hear from most is yourself. So the one thing we did not put on these sheets was, I want you to put on these sheets because this will lead to permanent transformation faster than anything else. Is you got to pick something to reinforce yourself with every time you meet one of your goals on a daily basis. Let me preface that by saying trying does not count. I tried to write today. There's no trying. Either you did it or you did not do it, period. So you've got realistic daily goals now. But when you finish writing, you've literally got to say to yourself, good job, Tom. You showed up and did your writing today. Good job. Here's your favorite piece of chocolate. Now, what part of that does that reprogram for us? What do we need? We ostracized it initially, but we need it now. What? Your left brain. You will not succeed as an author without the input of your left brain. You will not succeed. Just won't happen. So the left brain only knows, it doesn't really know anything. It's not intellectual. It learns by rote and repetition. It's really important to understand. The left brain learns by rote and repetition. Its job is to keep you away from pain and lead you to pleasure. For a long time, it's associated pain with writing, hasn't it? If I write, I won't get published. I don't have the time. Who the hell wants to hear what I have to say? They're going to know for sure that I'm crazy because there'll be a tangible record of it. Right? I mean, so that's what the left brain's thought. That's what our environment has taught us. So it automatically associates writing with what? Pain. Now, if every time you finish your writing or revision or take a step toward your writing, and you reward yourself with chocolate, coffee, after this retreat, alcohol, your favorite TV show, whatever, then the left brain will say, writing's a good thing. It leads us to martinis in the morning. Seriously, the reinforcement's essential to permanent change. I had a student by the name of Isabella Quigley. She grew up in a farming family in Nebraska. You know, they're tough in Nebraska. Got a tornado coming down the garden, you're still out there with a trap. They're tough people. So Isabella worked really, really hard to get a book done. I was working with her individually, so it took about 2 months. But Isabella was not the type of student that I could talk to nicely, because she was used to being treated sternly. And if I was nice to her, she'd take advantage of me. I had to be mean to her, because that's what she was used to. So So she finished her book and she was all happy and like, Isabella, it's Friday afternoon at noon, right? Yes, it is, Tom. All right, we're talking Monday at 1, am I correct? You're right, 1 o'clock, yeah, it's your time. All right, listen, you have between now and Monday at 1, do something very special for yourself to celebrate the fact that you finished your book. Do you understand me? Yes, I do. Do you understand what I said? You're going to celebrate this weekend. You're going to do something significant with your life. Yes. All right, you got it? Bam! I hang up the phone on her. So I had to deal with it. So she calls at 1 o'clock, right on time. She's never late. Calls at 1 o'clock. I didn't even say hi. I said, what did you do this weekend? She goes, well, I don't stutter. Tell me what the hell you did. I bought a cottage in England. I had to cover the mic and the phone. I was laughing my ass off. I had to come back and come up with some semblance of a stern voice. What do you mean you bought a cottage in England? Well, I was there 3 years ago. I saw one I liked. And you said it was a really big accomplishment to finally write my book, and I always wanted to buy that cottage. I spent the whole weekend calling around England to try to find the owner, and I bought it over the phone. She's still writing. She's still writing. So I'm not saying you have to buy a cottage, but you do have to pick something of significance. So what I would suggest doing is come up with a list, and don't wait too much longer than tonight or first thing tomorrow morning, of things that you can give yourself on a daily and big break basis. So you finish your writing, you can choose from the list what you want. You finish on a big break basis, you choose from what you want from that list. It's really important. And don't depend on the people in your life to do this for you. They love you, but they don't have the same connection with writing you do. They don't understand. And it puts way too much pressure on any type of relationship that you could have for people to reward you for something that they don't appreciate. And the person you want to hear from is you, man. We want to hear from you. So that's very, very important reinforcement, and thank you for reminding me of that.
Oh, you're
I know it was a telepathic thing. But thank you. So that becomes really important, especially for this group. You guys are hard chargers again. You're really aggressive. I really appreciate that. So we can just get you to be nice to yourself. You're all going to succeed tremendously. Okay? But it's got to come from you. And you literally have to use the words that your parents didn't use. Good job, Tom. You're the author you want to be. You're very brave. I'm very proud of you. You literally have to say those words, or something like that. And I'm going to tell you, your life will turn around immediately. I had a story of a lesser significance. I had one author I was working with. I used to, for 19 years, I worked with people individually, and finally gave it up, thank God. It's a lot harder to work with people individually. I can use the group energy to do so many things that was hard for me to do. But I had this one author, she was kind of a hit and miss writer. I just couldn't get her to get writing consistently. I was starting to get really irritated with her. And so finally I got her on the phone one night, did you write today? No, I'm kind of late for work. Did you write or not? No. All right, listen, here's what I want you to do. Well, what do you like? What do you like? What's something you have to have every day on a daily basis? Diet Coke. I said, okay. You're going to put the phone down. You're going to go find a 6-pack of Diet Coke. If you've got that 6-pack in your house, I want you to take that 6-pack and put it in the back of the refrigerator so it gets really cold. If you don't have a 6-pack, I want you to go out and buy one, and I'll be here waiting for you when you get back. And when you get back, you put that 6-pack in the back of the refrigerator where it's going to get really cold. So thank God she had a 6-pack there.
Yeah.
So she comes back and says, okay, I got the 6-pack there. I said, okay, listen, tomorrow you finish your writing, you achieve your goals, you have as much of that 6-pack as you want. You don't get any. That's how it is, all or nothing. She finished her book 3 days later. See, you have the same vices.
Yeah.
Being overachievers, you have lots of vices.
Yes.
Those can actually work for you. And again, you want to get to the point where both brains work together to achieve the success that you deserve. The problem is that so much of your life, your left brain has ostracized your right brain. Now we've reversed the polarity. The right brain's in control. That doesn't mean we want to ostracize the left brain. It means we want to use the capabilities of the left brain to work for us. Especially when you get into publishing, when you get into the business aspects of promotion, that left brain is invaluable. But that left brain always has to fall under the control of the right brain. Does that make sense? So I'm very logical when I need to be. But I turn it on and turn it off. I don't like going there. But I turn it on when I need it, I turn it off when I don't. But I know it's there. But it's always under the control of my right brain. Is there any questions about this, Raina? Any questions?
Oh, I was gonna ask about the Post-it note thing.
Yes, Post-it
with
note thing.
Poetry, like
Yes.
a book of poetry, do you do the same thing?
A book of poetry? Every book, whether it's a book of poetry, a book of short stories, a book of essays, a nonfiction book, or a fiction book, is all the same. It's all gonna be broken up the same way. So you wanna pick, let's say that you've written a lot of poems. You wanna pick out 5 of them. One for the beginning, one for the midpoint, one for the halfway point, one for the second midpoint, one for the end, that are gonna epitomize and really bring into play the major points that you're trying to make with that entire collection. Does that make sense? So it's all the same. I don't want to belittle your categorical questions, but to be honest with you, writing is writing. What you've learned to do this weekend, you can take the techniques we learned this weekend. You can write a screenplay, you can write poetry, you can write a nonfiction book, you can write a comic book, because it's all just taking an interconnection, moving it into whatever category you want to write at that moment. The problem I had when I was trying to learn from even some best-selling authors how to write was that they only knew how to write a great nonfiction book. They didn't understand the interconnectedness of the writer and the author within, and how that can be channeled in any direction you want to go. The different categories just symbolize different containers, that's all. But they're all meant to achieve the same purpose. Just like we're all meant to achieve the same purpose on Earth. We all got love we need to spread in our own certain ways. We're just a lot of